Hi, this is Dr. Connie, LA, but originally from the Netherlands, Dutch. So today we're going to talk about conflict resolution. And I don't even like the word conflict, right? It's usually a difference of opinions and it stems from a couple of things. So whether you call it conflict, whether you call it difference of opinions, it doesn't really matter, but how to deal with it, right? Because in life, in families, in your relationship, in business, there will be differences of opinion. And when people are very adamant about that, their way of putting it, their way of feeling it is the right way, you have tensions and you rub each other the wrong way. So here's a couple of things to consider when that happens. I will focus on business, but you can also use that or utilize that in life, in business. It's a valuable tool to have. So I mentioned that a conflict is often based on expectations. Now we have, and that happens on a subconscious level, right? You know that most of the things happen on a subconscious level. It's kind of 95% of the day. So what happens on the subconscious level doesn't have a judge, it just comes out, right? Now, expectations, we have all expectations based on who you are, how you describe yourself, based on school, peer group, you name it. We have expectations. We often have expectations that people will react and do the same that you would have done. And an example is a client that is really, she's very strict, but she's really open with what she's feeling and what's going on. So she expects that from her hubby who has a different style. So when you do not communicate your expectations, basically you create conflict. If there's any expectations that you have about your team, co-workers, boss, whatnot. Boss is a little bit tricky, right? When you're an employee, but you can create an atmosphere where you can just sit down and clarify. Remember that word, clarify is a good one, right? Clarifying expectations. What's the expectation that you have about what I need to do, how I need to react, what my code of conduct is, what my job description is. What is the expectation from a manager, from a boss, an owner, a CEO? What does the team need to do? When do they need to deliver? Is it completely clear? Usually it's not clear, right? There's a non-clarity and people fill it in to their own wiring, to their own being. So when there's not a clear definition of job role, tasks to do, action to take, timeline, working towards a result, working towards the vision and the company's quarterly, yearly goals, then that's all a little bit muddled. Most of the people have like a really great intent, but they will fill in the actions the best they could do, and then are totally surprised if that is not acceptable or if that is not good enough. So from both sides, clarifying is a very, very important thing to prevent conflict. So expectations you have, put them on the table. Am I right in expecting that? Is it okay that I, do it this way or whatnot? But when you have expectations, put them on the table, communicate and find out if they're the right expectations. Sometimes it's also the communication style, right? Because I went over it in another section, the DISC. So it's a very simple one. I love it because it's so simple. But when you as a Heidi, right? Dominant, big vision, quick, you're communicating in your own style to somebody who has the opposite style, who is a little bit slower, who needs to have all the details, then there will be a conflict. So either or, it can come from two sides, but either or, make sure your communication is being perceived like you meant it to be. So always follow up with, okay, what did you get? Always follow up maybe with an email or notes. so that you know that you communicated clearly, they understood, they perceived it in the right way, and you can get on. So never leave a communication without knowing if both parties are on the same page. So clarity, 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 right? The more clarity you have, the less conflict you have. And then, you know, there are some people, and it's a minority, but they have a sense of entitlement. And they have expectations, again, as well, about what they're entitled to. So I have an example of a real estate business in the Netherlands. And this young guy, you know, he's sappy, he only works there for 3 years, but he's good. He's doing the cold calling, he's bringing in some business, he gets handsomely paid. But all of a sudden, in his mind, he was as good as people who work there for 20, 25 years. And that's not the case. So that needs to be a reality check. That needs to be clarity where you're at, what you're hired for, what's to be expected from you, what the compensation is for that. And for him, for this guy, it's very important to lay out a career path and to know what's possible and what's not possible for now. So again, clarity, clarity, clarity. That is the word of this session, right? Now, here's a biggie. When there's conflict, difference of opinions, it's of utmost importance to not take it personal. And that's tough because it's often directed to you. But if you can see that the person opposite of you, you have the conflict or the difference of opinion with, it's either, you know, a cry for help, or, you know, they really don't know what to do. So it comes from them. The problem lays with them, not with you. If you know that, then it's easier to not take it personal. You know, I take things personal, I really do. I know that from myself. So when there is a conflict, I always say, great, we need to talk about it. Let's schedule a follow-up talk. So I have a little bit time for myself to ground myself, to know, is it personal? Is it something that I did? Is it something that I could prevent it? Where would it come from? Is our communication style different? Are our expectations clear? Where's the non-clarity? Where is it coming from the opposite party? So I need, and that's just my style. I need, sometimes it's just 5 minutes, right? And to really be clear what's going on and not take that personal. So if you have a style like me, excuse yourself for 10, 15 minutes and go, you know what, I have to finish this, I'm available 30 minutes later, next day, whatnot, then you can use that time to really see it in perspective instead of taking it all personal, you know, he hates me, she hates me, right? No, that's usually not the case. There's a problem there, there's a pain there, there's a non-clarity there, there's a whole slew of different things that can happen, but usually it has nothing to do with you. You're just the perfect person at the perfect time to language to talk to that about, you know, nothing to do with you. The problem is on the other side, and it's just a difference of opinion. But it's also very important for you to keep in mind, what do I want with this conversation? Because we all know, and sometimes in a team, right? And it's simple to say you have A, B, and C players. The A players, keep them. They're golden. They're fantastic. They're self-motivators, self-starters. They're reasonable. They're good communicators, you know? And then you have B players, you think they can become A players, but you're not sure yet. So you give them a chance. And often you sit down, or HR sits down and make a plan with them. And then you have to set out a timeline where all the action items need to be implemented, and then you can reassess. Now, in every company, you unfortunately also have C players. So it has to do with how you pick people, but it also has to do with how people present themselves. And in a job interview, you know, you present yourself as the best ever, right? And then in reality, that might be the case, it might not be the case. So when you have a C player that's been proven over and over that it's really a C player, then conflict resolution, what's the outcome, what's the result? Sometimes it's better to let them go and help them to find something that's more suitable for them, right? I don't know if you ever saw that clip with George Clooney, right? Where he had to fire people. And there was this old, grudgy old man, and I'm working here, blah, 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 money, house, kids, all of that. And then George Clooney, it was a movie. And then George Clooney reconnected him with his passion. And I believe it was like pastry baking or something like that, right? And the guy left the side of being fired, happy to pursue what he really was passionate about. So it's sometimes it's not a fit. It's not a team fit. And team is really important, more important than the individual. It needs to be a team fit. So result, what do you want to achieve? Make up your mind. It's a quick process. What is the result that I want out of this conversation, out of this, and sometimes it's a conversation with a team, with multiple people. What is the result that I want you from this conversation? And it can be very different ones, but you have to be clear on what you want to achieve there, right? Don't go in open-minded. Don't go in, oh, we have to resolve this. Yes, but that's more an action item than the end result. The end result might be through your action items, the end result might be that you want to have every member of the team knowing what is really important versus urgent, knowing that this is our deadline, this is what we need to achieve this month, this quarter, and it needs to be in line with the vision. So the goal is bigger than that small conversation, but it's really important to know that, right? So results oriented, always. And when it's little sideway, when it's a conflict within your family, the bigger overall outcome for me would to come from love, to come from gratitude, to show my appreciation, and to also communicate what's important for me, what my boundaries are, etc., etc. But the overall is, appreciation and gratitude. And that's also appreciation and gratitude. You can translate that to your team, because appreciation and gratitude bring you way further than, pulling the whip out of the closet and just lay it into them. My mom always said, and I don't know if an English word is, you better catch flies with honey than with vinegar. So it's a good thing to remember, right? All right, so how do we do that? What's the strategy? First off, you need to listen, and actively listen. Because usually when you're busy, you're not actively listening. You're in your head going, okay, either what I need to do, or either, well, where's this going? What do I want with it? And you have to do that up front, right? Not during the conversation, actually listening, really hearing the opposite side, being present, and sometimes also repeating when something is not clear for you, saying, what I hear you say is that correct? Did I hear that correct? Is that what you mean? Right? To really clarifying, there's the word again, and actively listening through being present. Even when you take 5 minutes or 10 minutes, in those 10 minutes, you're fully present and you're not going, oh my gosh, I have my next meeting. Be present. If you don't manage to get it done in the time frame you've set for yourself, you book another appointment. But in that time frame, be present and actively listening, aligning with them. Because if you make it a confrontation, then there is no other choice than to fight. It's kind of more like, I'm right, no, I'm right, right? You are kind of butting heads. And that is never a way to resolve a conflict or resolve anything. Say, I hear you, I see what the problem is for you, I understand what is going on, and that is a really, really important word. You can align with them, but also redirect. I understand you, I feel you, I know what's going on with you, and we need to resolve this in order to. And then you come with your result. Does that make sense? So it's like really respecting them and making sure that they feel heard, and then you move on with focusing them on where you wanted to go. Okay, so listening and aligning and then redirecting. So then when you've listened, you will speak about, your side, your reaction. So it could be like, I need your help. And when this and this happens, the conflict, right? Or the difference of opinions, I felt uncomfortable. I felt misunderstood. I felt that we're not on the same page. I felt that we're not working towards the goal, or there's no clarity with us, or we don't seem to gel together. And I know that can be totally, that's your add-on, right? And that can be totally on my side. That's totally me. And I know that's not who you are. That's not your intent. Now, you can only say that when you really mean it. And therefore, referring to the A, B, C players, with the C players, no, that's not true. So don't say it. But when you're A and your B players in your team, you definitely say that. I know that's not your intent because I know who you are. So you kind of settle them, ground them, open the door to a conversation that can resolve that conflict through clarity and making sure each of the parties is understanding where the other person is coming from. So when you say, when this and this happened, I need your help, and this happened, feeling, I know that that's not your intent because I know who you are. Now, here's where I really need your help. When this would occur again, how would you think about if we do this instead? So backtrack one step. Before you come with your solution, sometimes you can come with your solution directly. Sometimes before you come with your solution, also difference between men and women, right? There's a little bit more that comes from the other side. So there's another listening part, right? So either or, what the communication style is, what the masculine, feminine energy is, you might have to have another moment where you just listen when the other party comes with their story. It's their story. A story is often fabricated. A story is often not true. A story definitely is not your story, but it's still what they are living in. It's still what they make it the truth, whether that's right or not, right? So listen, and go, okay, thank you. Now, when this should occur again, then what do you think of this solution? And then you come with your, hey, before you stack everything up, when there's a question, when there's something that is not going the way you thought it to be, come to me. My doors are open every morning from 9 to 11, something like that, right? But you give them, and my mentor always said, and it's a story you probably heard, kill the monster when it's a baby, right? Because when there's one little irritant, fine. The second one, okay. The third one, you get like really antsy, but the fourth or the fifth one, you get like really irritated. So you stack event on event on event on event. And then when you reach threshold, there's usually an explosion. So you need to teach yourself, your team, the people on you're talking to, that, when there's one irritant, we need to speak about it. We don't wait till you have 5, 6, or 7 and then explode. That's not conducive. That's not how we do things. That's not good for you. It's not good for me. It's not good for the company, right? So to come up with a solution, whatever that solution is, and then ask if they could do that, or if there's anything they need to add, not you, but they need to add. And then sometimes, you write it up, you both put your signature on that, and it's all good. And sometimes it's enough, you shake hands and you go like, you know what, I give you a little resume, a little notes on what we spoke about and what we decided to do. And when that's accurate, just send it back to me with, yes, thumbs up, that's accurate. So conflict in in a business, expectations, non-clarity, being really defensive. You know, I have a product coming out about women in business that have a lot of culture, ancient history based beliefs about how men would react to women, whether that's true or not, but based on them having those beliefs, them having those expectations, there's a whole different energy that comes to the table, right? So it starts with the person, and then with clarity, with like really listening, with aligning, with having a conflict resolution talk about, you know, I need your help. When this and this happened, I felt, and then you say, I know that's not you, that's not your intent, I know who you are, and then come with a solution, sign it, seal it, and you go on. So when you have a strategy in place, and maybe you can even make that strategy known to your team, right? Part of your code of conduct. Then you don't even have to think about it's a conflict anymore. It's just something you encounter and something you resolve together quickly and easily. When the team is used to it, when you're used to it, it might be a 5 or 10-minute thing. And it's worth to take that time out of your day, out of your busy day, to make sure everything is going smoothly. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh my.